What is going on, YouTube? And as you can see, we are going back to Springwood because we are going to rank the Freddy makeup. And let me reiterate, much like my last video, that I am not an expert on makeup or effects or anything like that, so it's just going by the old eye test. Whatever I think looks good will be ranked high. Whatever I think looks like dog shit will be ranked pretty low. And if you're looking for any sort of in-depth breakdown of the makeup and crap like that, sorry, this is the wrong video because, like I said, that's just not my area of knowledge or expertise or whatever. But we're going to roll with this, so let's get this ranking started. Coming in dead last at number 9 is the makeup from the 2010 remake. Yep, just one more thing the remake tried way too hard on and got wrong. Now I understand why they made Freddy look the way he does in this. Not only is it to be different and stand out from Robert Englund's Freddy, but it's also to try to make the burns and the scars in his face look more realistic to what an actual burn victim would look like. But it just looks like shit and it doesn't play well on camera. He doesn't look threatening or intimidating, and dare I say, at times, he even looks funny. Plus the makeup doesn't allow for much facial expression, which doesn't allow for any sort of personality to come through. But it's not like this Freddy had any sort of real personality to begin with, but I digress. But the real shit kicker here as to why this sits dead last is that the majority of the makeup, if not all of it, is CGI. And terrible looking CGI depending on the scene. And to me, that's just downright lazy filmmaking. Now, I'm not one of these guys that likes to actively shit on everything CGI because it does have its place in film. However, I'm a fan of when something can be practically done in camera. And in this case, when we're talking about using CGI for makeup, damn, that's just lazy. Coming in at number 8 is the makeup from Freddys Dead. You know, there's an old saying, not all that glitters is gold, and just because this makeup was practically done doesn't mean it's any good. But I'll give the makeup in Freddys Dead a little bit more credit than the remake because they actually did do it for real. But the effort of said attempt at this point in the franchise is questionable at best. I mean, not only do the facial burns and scars look like they've just stretched bubblegum over his face and called it a day, but they did an awful job with the prosthetics around the neck as well by not really hiding that extra latex. I mean, it doesn't look like they even tried. It looks like they just glued a Freddy Krueger mask from a Halloween store to Robert's face and tucked the neck into the shirt, thinking no one would notice. But we did. Lazy shit makeup to go with a lazy shit movie. Enough said. Coming in at number 7 is the makeup from Part 2, Freddys Revenge. I love this Freddy, but the makeup, not so much. When you don't really see it, it doesn't look that bad. Now I get that sounds dumb saying that, but what I mean is when the makeup is barely lit or kind of in shadow, it looks fine, because that masks its deficiencies. But when it's well lit, it just looks like a sloppy mess. Now there are moments where it doesn't look too bad, because in those moments he does look downright terrifying. But then there's other ones where it looks like absolute dog shit. It looks muddy and greasy and not at all what charred and burned flesh should look like. At the very least, it just doesn't look like the makeup that was established in the original. Now, I believe the makeup artist that worked on Freddys Revenge was not the same one who worked on the original Nightmare on Elm Street, so perhaps he went in with his own interpretation of what Freddy should look like, instead of simply following the mold from the original, but, you know, artists and their visions. Freddys Revenge is one of the underrated films in the franchise, and it's one of my personal favorites. I just wish I had the same sort of enthusiasm about his makeup. Coming in at number 6 is the makeup from Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Again, much like Part 2, I love this version of Freddy, or Freddy, but I don't think they really had a clue as to where they were going with the makeup. As we all know, this isn't really Freddy, but a dream demon entity thing being taking the form of Freddy to attack Wes Craven and Heather Langenkamp in the real world. So I can accept a little bit of fakeness here with the makeup, but not completely, as it doesn't excuse the fact that the makeup resembles an apple pie that suddenly just became self-aware and alive and wanting to murder you for trying to eat it. Like I think I said in one of my other Freddy ranking videos, the mask just looks too Halloween store plastic fake. Even if it's not supposed to be Freddy, I would have liked to have seen them try a bit harder to bring back that look from parts 1, 3, or 4. Plus, it's not like this was just some random bargain bin director they scraped off the bottom of the barrel to make this thing. This was Wes Craven. This was the man himself, so I got nothing. Coming in at number 5 is the makeup from Part 5, Dream Child. Post Dream Warriors, this is where I feel the makeup really started to take a nosedive. Which is pretty odd considering that the production budget was roughly double that of Dream Warriors. Yet somehow with more money, the makeup effects got much worse. Beats the shit out of me, I don't know how that's possible. The makeup hasn't yet reached that point of laziness that Freddys Dead would achieve, but damn, it's knocking on the door. And actually, it's about this point in the franchise where Freddy kind of stopped looking like Freddy and started looking a little bit more like Al Bundy to me. I don't know, I'm probably the only one that sees that. I guess I'm just a little weird. But yeah, Freddy's makeup in Part 5 is really teetering that line of, you know, looking good or looking bad, but it doesn't really fall off. For what it's worth, it's average.
Let's cook.
Coming in at number 4 is the makeup from the original Nightmare on Elm Street. The original Nightmare on Elm Street is all kinds of awesome, but Freddy's makeup? Look, it's the original film, it's a masterpiece, so I'm not gonna shit on Freddy's makeup here, because honestly it's not bad at all, it's pretty good. It definitely carves out the template and sets the standard for the rest of the franchise in terms of Freddy's iconic burn scars and his look, to a certain point. But aside from maybe 2 or 3 brief moments, you don't really get a good look at it, as Freddy kind of stays in the shadows for the most part in this one. And what you do see, I really hate admitting it, but if I have to be honest and true to this ranking, I do believe there are films in this franchise that either do it better or perfect it. Coming in at number 3 is the makeup from Freddy vs. Jason. Freddy vs. Jason did an excellent job of bringing that classic Freddy look back from the dead. Not only was Freddy excellent in this movie, but so was his makeup. Everything was about on par with what you would expect Freddy Krueger to look like. And this does a better job with the makeup than New Nightmare and the last 2 entries of the official series. Plus, I especially love the demonic variant of Freddy's makeup during Laurie's dream sequence. I just wish they would have given the same TLC to another character in that movie. Coming in at number 2 is the makeup from Part 4, Dream Master. This was the last film in the franchise that really seemed to give a damn about the Freddy makeup, as well as other things. But Freddy looks great in Dream Master, and while the makeup might not be as good as Dream Warriors, it's really damn close. But like I said, I believe it's the last point in the official series where Freddy looks frightening. Because in Dream Master, it still looks like they took their time to do the makeup proper, whereas in the successors, it looks like they took the cheap way out. Yeah, for me, Dream Master has always been one of the more underrated of the Nightmare on Elm Street films, and it's also one of the most underrated in terms of the look of Freddy, including his makeup. But as you could imagine, the makeup is not good enough to dethrone what many of you probably already suspected was going to be at number 1. So, that means coming in at number 1 is the Freddy makeup from Dream Warriors. And this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody because Dream Warriors just continues to keep batting 1,000 on my rankings. I'm not going to shy away from the fact that there's probably a little bit of bias because this is my favorite entry in the franchise, and it is my favorite Freddy in the franchise as well. So naturally, the makeup just goes hand in hand with both of those. But I really do think it's the absolute perfected look of Freddy Krueger, and every entry from this point on either did it just as well or not well at all. But much like the formula for the character himself, I truly believe that the benchmark for the makeup comes from this entry. And while it may not have originated that look and that template, because that distinction belongs to the original, this one just took what the original did and turned it up a few notches. You get more of the defined look of the burns and the scars, and it just looks better, and it's a drastic improvement over not only the makeup of the original, but the makeup from part 2 as well. And that is why it sits at number 1 on my ranking. But that was it for this ranking video. What are your guys' favorite looks of Freddy's? Where would you rank them in the franchise? Please post your rankings below. And as always, like, comment, and subscribe. Adios. Now, GTFO!